Behold, it's Natalia. Let's go find some monkeys, shall we? Would you say sex is like riding a bicycle? Nothing gets me going like Christmas and wigs. Let's check out this show.
I remember the first creature I beheld. He was a squirrel. His name was Kevin.
I heard you need a DNA sample.
I want to find light and joy in things that bring us together and unite us. And I think science is something that can unite us. Ow. God damn.
There's a world out there, a world that needs to be beheld.
Behold, how is everyone doing? I feel like that is a very loaded question this week. Welcome to Survival of the Filthiest. You might know me as your host, biological anthropologist and comedian Natalia Reagan. And this week is a special week in the fact that it's going to be a truncated show, a shorter show, with just me and maybe my producer Peter popping in if and when he would like to. Essentially, I am going to Glastonbury, the big music festival in the UK. It's like if Woodstock just kept going. It's like 300,000 strong. It's Coachella on amphetamines or you supersized Coachella. And there is camping. In fact, I will be going out there to camp and also perform. So Glastonbury is again, in England. Somerset, England. It's on the west side of England. And I'm heading out there to do multiple shows, versions of Survival of the Filthiest, the live stage show. And I'll be doing 3 performances that are between 30 and 45 minutes long. So longer shows, and then 1 10-minute set on Thursday evening. And then I'll be on a women in STEM panel with Jilly Forrester on Sunday afternoon. So I'm just wanted to kind of run through that with folks and let you know what that's about, but also address what's going on here in the U.S. We kind of talked about it last week when I had Jason Wise on, Jason Journeyman, of course. If you did not tune in, definitely watch that live. I still need to cut that up. If you've noticed, if you've been following me for a while, I apologize. It's taken me so long to cut up these live streams into shorter versions. It's just very time consuming, and I want to do it well, right? And I feel like I've had such great guests on that they deserve having 60-second, 90-second little versions of, or, snippets of their show to hopefully entice more people to watch, because the whole point of doing this live stream is to elevate voices that I think need to be heard more than ever, considering what's going on in this country. And right now with these ICE raids in Los Angeles and around the US, it's not just here in LA, but LA is being hit incredibly hard. In fact, a friend of mine, Kevin, shout out to Kevin from CSUN, Zemlica, posted that he got alerts that Balboa Park in the San Fernando Valley, a park that I spent a lot of time in as a kid, had ICE agents there. And it's a huge park in the middle of the San Fernando Valley. It's right near the Sepulveda Dam. And so I had to, I reposted it because there are usually a lot of potential immigrants, undocumented folks there. So if you know anybody in that area, stay away. I don't know 100% sure how accurate it is. This was about an hour or 2 ago that this was posted, but better safe than sorry right now. But there's a lot of folks that, sell fruit or, vendors and things of that sort that would be vulnerable. So what we're seeing, though, and what's really breaking my heart is a divide in this country. Those that see these ICE agents kidnapping people and see it for what it is, which is kidnapping without due process, violating the Fourth Amendment, which has to do with search and seizure and having the proper warrants to do so, and following, again, due process, allowing them to have access to a lawyer. The things that are coming out of these detention centers, the lawmakers who have gone to visit them have said that they do not have access to clean accommodations. It is filthy. It is dirty. They don't have access to lawyers, which is, again, highly illegal. But what are you going to do at this point when you have it coming from the top? So unfortunately, I think a lot of these things will be deemed illegal, but the damage has been done. These people have been kidnapped, and a lot of them are being kidnapped that are citizens, people that have documentation that they are actual US citizens, but they do not care. There are people that are being detained at their immigration hearing. So people that scream from the rooftops, that immigrants should be able to come here, but they have to do it legally. Well, first of all, it's nearly impossible to do it legally. It's very, very hard. And the US did that by design. They did a lot of things by design to make this a very hard process. But when these immigrants are actually trying to do it legally, they are actually being detained at their hearings, which is just diabolical. It's just pure evil. There was a Guatemalan woman that was basically detained after she gave birth, which I've never had a child. I can't imagine the trauma of that, on top of being, separated, ripped away from your child, and possibly deported. There have been churches that have been raided. There have been schools that have been raided, graduations. So, and by the way, 12% of students here in the U.S. public school system have at least one undocumented parent. So there are a lot of students that are citizens because they were born here, but maybe one of their parents is undocumented. And again, I like to give people talking points about what to say when, say, we all have, well, I shouldn't say we all have, but a lot of us have people in our circle, whether they are family, whether they're friends, that might be like, I don't know, I think they should do it legally. Or like, why are they coming over here? Or, they're criminals, they're rapists, they're lazy, they're freeloaders. Well, first of all, when it comes to the money situation, if you have, and maybe it's you, maybe you're the one that's like, undocumented workers, they are just draining our system. They're taking all our social services and not giving anything back, which, here are the numbers. In 2022 alone, undocumented workers paid $97 billion with a B, in taxes to the US, but because they're not citizens, they're not going to reap the benefits of those like social services, that like Social Security and these systems that they're paying into, because they're not citizens. But again, they bring in money. They also 75% of the farm workers here in California, which is the fourth, we've moved on up. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. 75% of our farm workers are undocumented workers. So they're being detained at their places of work. Operative word, work. They're being detained at Home Depots, different garment factories, different areas, agricultural areas, job sites. We lost 18,000 homes in the fires here in Los Angeles in January, between the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire. 18,000 homes. Who are going to rebuild them? We have a workforce here that does amazing work, that is unfortunately thankless in many ways, probably does not make minimum wage. Who are going to do those jobs? So again, they bring in tons of money. Undocumented workers do a lot of work that American citizens don't want to do. A lot of people don't want to work in garment factories. And if you have friends that are like, have a stick up their butt about the fact that they're taking American jobs. Do you want your child to work in a garment factory? Do you want your child to pick strawberries or whatever assorted fruits we have here in California? I have a feeling the answer is no. So who's going to do it? Do you want to watch the fourth largest economy in the world collapse? Probably not. Maybe you do. Maybe you want to all watch it burn. I don't know. I don't know what I'm not here to kink shame. I don't know what you're into. But these are things to think about. As far as calling people illegal aliens, I think that's rich, considering the fact we're standing on stolen land. People get up in arms about that term, by the way. I posted some videos last week of, actually only one. I posted another one on Instagram, but only one video of when I was confronted. I basically was going to a protest on Sunday, not this past Sunday, but the week prior. So a week before the No Kings rally. And I was looking for parking like everybody here in Los Angeles. That's the biggest challenge when we go anywhere, is parking. And I was going down a thoroughfare and I was being waved through by cops. And then cops on the other side started tear gassing people, peaceful protesters, because this is at 2 p.m. This is right at the beginning, like maybe 2:15, right at the beginning of this protest. Started tear gassing protesters into the street that I was trying to drive through, like the intersection. I was driving on a thoroughfare. I was trying to drive through this intersection. They were tear gassing them into the intersection. And a cop who was waving me through, all of a sudden like started screaming at me and going, "Turn left. What are you doing? Turn left." And I was like, "Well, I'm sorry. I can't predict when you're going to tear gas protesters." And so I turned left onto Alameda. So this is at Alameda and Aliso, right near the Federal Detention Center. And then they blocked off the other side of this bridge. It was basically an overpass over the 101 freeway, which is a very large freeway here in Los Angeles. Fun fact, I actually got hit by a truck on the shoulder of the 101 when I was 25 years old. Just a little side note. But I'm stuck on this bridge where I've got protesters and cops behind me. And then I've got in front of me a line of LAPD holding their they look like Nerf guns, but they're holding these green guns that shoot rubber bullets. And I have this man, Officer Corona, that's just pointing his weapon at me, at my car, at the people around me. Because there's about 5 or 6 cars, and I had some real, knuckleheads in the comments saying, "Oh, you get a man to drive your car, you wouldn't have been stuck there." I'm like, yeah, everybody else on that bridge was a dude. So, okay, genius. That's not how that is going to go. But I got stuck there for about 20 minutes. I got lots of footage of this man firing his weapon at photographers, which I think is interesting. It was almost as if he was upset about being perceived, and so he was on the offensive. So point being, though, I was able to park after, because, and he did make a threat. He basically sent somebody to come tell me, the officer did. He didn't want to tell me himself, apparently, tell me that you're going to have to leave your car and we're going to tow it, when they were the ones that told me to park there. And by the way, again, I got eaten alive in comments on YouTube, but eaten alive is putting it strongly. People just tried to rip me a new one because they didn't read the caption. They were like, "What is she doing there? Why is she there anyways?" And it's like, we're going to protest. How do you get around your city? Unfortunately, we don't have the best public transportation. So I was just driving to a protest, but just very much blaming me. Whereas, funny enough, on Instagram and on Facebook, it was the opposite reaction. They were like, "I can't believe you're going through that." Occasionally somebody would write something ignorant, but for the most part, the comments were in support. Whereas YouTube, a lot of people were just going off. And I finally, he was able to leave, but the irony is they threatened to tow me when they told me to park there, or turn that way. And when I did park, I walked over and I took a lot of footage of very peaceful protests, people just standing around, and holding signs, not doing anything. And every so often the cops would kind of get a little testy and start either tear gassing them or putting up their guns as if to shoot them. And basically they were starting the shit. And I have spent a lot of time at protests in the past 20 some odd years, since Bush was in office. But I was out a lot during BLM in Brooklyn. I lived in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. I went to a lot of protests there, and I saw a lot of cops really tugging the tiger's tail, and they were the ones doing the agitating. And I saw that here. So that's something to really consider. But also this idea of stolen land. What do I mean by that? Because I actually, I had somebody I knew from youth group comments, basically, Native Americans immigrated here too. And they did. She's not wrong. Native Americans did immigrate to the Americas roughly 20,000 years ago. And they did not show up and immediately start kicking other people out or, creating or, committing genocide, which is what we had here in the US when white settlers and the Spanish arrived. So again, when I say stolen land, I mean, we had the Spanish arrive in different parts of Central and South America and Mexico in the Southwest. And we had white settlers, Europeans, I'm not Europeans, but the English and the Dutch on the East Coast. So, I mean, all of them being white, Spanish or white. So all of them kind of coming in and not only killing the indigenous people that lived here, enslaving them in some cases, and also giving them blankets with smallpox. Good times. So in the case of the Spanish, there was the mission system, which I went to school. I went to parochial school as a child, so I grew up with a lot of religious education. That's why when I go up against religious fanatics about whether it's homosexuality or pro-choice, I know what I'm talking about. Thank goodness, because I actually had a theology education growing up. But we know that the mission system also was terrible to the indigenous people, essentially slavery, lots of disease transmission, a lot of raping, a lot of pillaging. It was atrocious. So when I say, nobody is illegal on stolen land, these people, these undocumented workers, many of which are from Central and Central America and Mexico, some from South America, of course, it's not just that Central America, but a lot of them are coming because the U.S. started conflicts and wars in these Central American countries that made them uninhabitable. Like they were just inhospitable places to live. The gangs, whether the cartels, these are all things that the United States had a hand in creating, and then made immigration here nearly impossible. And then when people started coming through urban areas, like say in the trunk of their car, or having like human smuggling, they made that nearly impossible. And so people started coming through the Sonoran Desert and dying that way. It's called prevention by deterrence. So essentially making it so dangerous to come to the US that it would deter people. So those people that died in the Sonoran Desert, that was intentional. That was what they wanted to have happen. And people still die trying to get here. And now, these ICE raids are, again, unconstitutional, but also heartbreaking to watch as somebody who knows and grew up. I actually grew up with my parents worked full time. I had a nanny. I had two nannies, one when I was really little, or till I was about 10, and then till I was about 13, who helped my mom out because my mom worked full time and she taught at night and stuff, and my dad worked and traveled a lot in the film industry, and both of them were from El Salvador. Both of them, my mom was sponsoring them to get their green card. And both of them were some of the hardest working, lovely people I've ever, spent time with. I love them. I'm in touch with one of them still. The other one has passed away. But one of them, Maria, my nanny, when I was really little, she had 15 kids. And I'm like, how is that possible? But 6 of them died in the war in El Salvador. Just 6 kids is crazy just to say that, but 6 of them died in the war. And then one summer, she'd go home to El Salvador during the summer, and she came back. So one fall, she came back with 3 teenage daughters who I was enamored with because, I was like 6 or 7 years old, and they were so cool. And I just thought they were the greatest. And years later, I asked, my mom, like, how did she get them to the States? And she said the trunk of her car, Maria's car. And it was in that moment, you just kind of realize this is a life I'll never be able to fully relate to. I'll never quite understand the hell that, I'm claustrophobic. Just the thought of that is terrifying. So I don't know. I really do feel like there's an empathy gap in this country. And I am very proud of my city for coming out and being so vocal, and for protesting, and for not accepting this is just, oh yeah, let's have that more martial law, bring on the curfew. We're pissed, we're mad, we're angry, we're not going to take it anymore. But no, I think I'm really proud to see so many white folks finally get it. If that makes sense, because I went out to the protests, and the first day it was a predominantly Latino, I guess, population at this protest, which is risky and very bold and brave of them. But because of the risks they run, because ICE doesn't seem to discriminate between citizens and undocumented. But I am seeing more and more white folks getting out there, doing the right thing, speaking up, having those conversations with people, having those arguments with folks online. Because I've talked about this on the show before. There's this idea of an ideal informant, which is people are more likely to listen and be persuaded by people who are like them, whether they look like them, whether they have the same socioeconomic background, the same profession, the same, ethnicity. We are likely to listen to people who are like us. So even though it sucks to have that maybe uncomfortable conversation with your Uncle Carl, who thinks that, they're good for nothing criminals or whatever, it's something that we need to do. And we, have those moments. I know that I had to have a few conversations with people. Most of the people in my world, the youth group people, were the ones that really not surprised me. I wasn't surprised. I was disappointed. I was greatly disappointed that people that, say that they're followers of Jesus would call these undocumented workers illegal aliens and say they kind of almost deserve what they get. And I was just like, wow, that's cruel. So anyways, that is okay. I was my rants. Less about Glastonbury, but more about what happened this past week. I will switch gears. And Peter, are there any? Let me see. Oh yes. Hi, my unfinished journey. Hail Natalia and Peter, and hail immigrants. Absolutely, immigrants are the backbone of this. I mean, we're all freaking immigrants. That's the craziest thing. Like, we are a country built on immigrants. And even the people that built, like, for instance, the White House, I mean, those were slaves. It's our history is pretty fraught. And Peter and I were talking, and if Peter wants to jump in at any point, we were talking about how hard it must be for somebody who grew up closer to the time in which Nazi Germany was going on, or at least was very well versed in what happened, because maybe proximity or just good education, how they're floored by this and how it's so obvious. Like it's just, they're taking a page out of Adolf's book and are just kind of running with it. Hold on one second. My unfinished journey. And in the spirit of No King's Day, fuck Nero. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, No King's Day. No King's Day was great. No King's Day gave me hope. Over 2,200 independent protests. So I was in Los Feliz. I did not go to downtown this time. I went with my community of burlesque. If any of the burlesque babes are watching, I don't know if you are, but I love you very much. And it's a community of men, women, and everybody in between, just coming together and really fighting fascists in a very sexy way. But we went to Los Feliz. It was a really big turnout. I don't know, maybe a couple thousand. It felt big. It felt, robust. And they were all over Los Angeles. Of course, downtown, I think, was 60,000. We had Glendale, Pasadena, Studio City, Woodland Hills, I think Santa Monica. I mean, all over the US or Los Angeles, people came out in full force. My aunt Susie, she's wonderful. She lives up in Three Rivers near Sequoia National Park. She went out, and she lives in this little tiny town called Three Rivers with 2,000 people. 200 came out, which is pretty good for a town of 2,000. That's what, 10%. That's fantastic. 10% of the whole city came out. And yeah, you saw Kalamazoo, all over Arizona, these little tiny towns. It made me so happy that red states were blowing up with these No Kings, because people know how bad it is. Peter says, you can come in, Peter, if you would like. Peter is my producer. Hello, Peter.
Hello. This is quite the honor.
Hello,
being on screen.
Yes, Peter. Yes, of course. I want you. Yeah. So, Peter, where are you?
I'm in the Netherlands. So, and I had something that I wanted, because you mentioned people having a tough life. Most people who know me know that my best friend is a Syrian refugee who came to the Netherlands after basically being tortured for a year by the Syrian government, because he's a Christian, which is obviously not something you want to be in Syria. And he was vocal too, and he was vocal about politics, and so they picked him up, even though he worked for the state TV station. They picked him up, and he got tortured. So when he takes his shirt off, you can see the scars, but when you talk to him, you see the worst scars, because he still can't talk about some of the stuff that he's been through. And yeah, people don't realize that. They think these people just come here to because obviously we have all the money, obviously we have it better. That's not the reason why they come here. They come here because they're afraid in their own country for their own safety. And I really wish that people would realize that you don't leave everything you hold dear to go to a different country and then be treated as a second-rate human being 9 out of 10 times by stupid people who don't realize what's going on. And those are the things that drive me mad. And so it's hard to watch what's going on in the US right now. It really is. Because I feel for the people who are being picked up. And if you look at you made a video about, I think, about the amount of taxes they pay, if I'm not correct. Yes. So.
Yeah, I did a whole thing about,
yes.
all the talking points I just went over.
Yes, these are the people who are leeching off of the Americans while paying trillions in taxes. What it was, I think, or billions. I mean, doesn't even matter.
Billions,
they pay their taxes. They contribute to the American economy. They contribute to infrastructure. All of this. So I don't see the problem. I think the problem will be when the farmers run out of cheap labor and people need to go and pick their own fruit. And that's when they might realize, hey, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
But,
yeah, there's a movie that came out in 2003, I believe. A friend of mine, his name is Brew. He was in it. He played one of the racist white guys because he's like this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Aryan race-looking gentleman. Very nice guy in real life. But it was called A Day Without a Mexican. And the concept was that it was like the rapture happened and all the Mexicans or all, essentially all the Latinos disappeared. But it was about the collapse of essentially California, because they are our workforce, they are the backbone. They make this country go, and that's why it's so sick is why are they going after the immigrants rather? If it really is about we want them to do this legally, then why aren't you going after the people who are hiring them illegally? That's the sick part is,
or make it a little easier or make it a little easier for them to become legal.
Absolutely. And they have done the opposite. There's a book called Soldiers and Kings. I'm hoping to have Jason DeLeon. I've told Peter about this. My friend, Jason DeLeon is a anthropologist, and he has done an amazing job of doing kind of participant observation ethnography, where he actually goes to Central America, spends time in Honduras and Guatemala and Mexico with these human smugglers that work to bring people to the US that are trying to escape the gangs and the warfare that's still going on, these turf wars in Honduras that are incredibly dangerous, and people die all the time, either there or on their way here. People are exploited. They know that they need passage, so they'll get robbed or exploited, taken for all their worth. And it's a really heartbreaking process. And like you said, Peter, people don't leave behind everything they know, everything they've built, everything that they love and hold dear, to risk life, limb, everything to come to a country that doesn't really want them. They're not doing it to get rich. They're doing it so they don't die. And they oftentimes work very hard to send money back home so other people can make the voyage, and it's this. And what's even sicker is the US. And this is why I wish there was a better education, not just, and Peter and I were talking about this before the show, that there was a poll a few years ago, about 63% of young Americans did not know that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. They have a very vague understanding of the Holocaust, if not at all, which is terrifying. But on top of that, there's a lot of students that don't understand the history of Central America and how the U.S. played a huge role, if not the entire role, in creating these conflicts and wars that made it impossible to live there without fearing for your life on a daily basis.
And when you say 6 million Jews, that's just the Jews. That's not
That's just the
even
Jews.
counting the Sinti and Roma who were also picked up and basically murdered on arrival.
Homosexuals.
It was gay people. It was people who went against the regime. It was people who shared a different belief. I mean, there's a lot more than just the 6 million Jews that people don't even know about. And sadly enough, people in my country don't even know about that. So when I lived in town, there was a Roma guy living in the street just behind me, and he always wore a big cowboy hat, and he sat in front of his house making violins. And I thought, I mean, I'm always interested in people doing crafts. And then I found out that he was actually the leader of a Roma band that was really famous in the Netherlands. And not only that,
What are they called? Sorry.
It'll come to me. I zoned out. It'll come to me. But so he also was one of the people who was fighting for the recognition of the Roma and Sinti people that were killed. He was knighted by the Queen for all of his work, and so yeah, he spent a whole lot of his time, and he was a famous violin builder too, due to the band was called Tata Mirando, which was on Dutch TV all the time. They were one of the house bands for several shows. But so I called him Tata because Tata means daddy in either Roma or Sinti. I forgot. But yeah, those, you hear stories from those people as well, and
Yeah.
it's
That's so sad. No, it's
yeah. Go ahead.
no. I just, again, it's like you said, the 6 million is just obviously a huge amount of people, but that's just part of it. You know, there were scientists that were targeted, and that's why this playbook is so, I think, so scary, is when we're realizing, and in people that know the history, if you know your history, then you're not fated to repeat it, you know. But I feel like a lot of people don't know it, or they're willing to overlook it because it doesn't affect them. And that's that empathy gap I'm talking about, is people and realizing, and I try to tell people, anybody can be a scapegoat at any point. You know, white
Yes.
men tend to not fall into that category. You know, Judeo-Christian, well,
Yeah.
really evangelical white men, cis hetero, generally don't get scapegoated. But you know, there's a lot of intersections. Who knows? Maybe there's something else that you do, or some sort of identity that you fall into, that you are vulnerable as well. And so it's just sad to me that it takes it to personally affect them for them to all of a sudden give a crap about it. And there was a civil rights lawyer that was on a show, or did a video recently, and she said the one thing that she wishes she could impart to everybody, especially those rich people, those rich Republicans who come to her and say, my undocumented worker is different. My undocumented, because they'll have like a maid, or they'll have a caregiver, or they'll have a driver, or they'll have somebody that fits into that undocumented world, but they deserve to be the exception. And it's like, why can't you apply what you know about the person who works for you to everybody? Why is everybody else a rapist, a criminal, a murderer, a freeloader? Why, you know? And we already know that the chances of somebody creating or committing a crime, it's a lot higher if they are a citizen than they are undocumented. They are outliers. And so, again, it's just this presumption, this stereotype that is so dangerous and sick, really, that I wish people could see it, you know. And especially the what's going on with science in the US is very similar to what was going on in 1930s Germany, you know. Really vilifying the scientists, vilifying their work. And that is why when I was teaching biological anthropology, I made it, I really wanted to make sure that all my students, because like that stat I just gave about the 63% of young adults that didn't know about the Holocaust, I asked them, I'm like, did you know what happened during World War II? And I'd briefly go over it, only because, specifically because biological anthropology, which is what I taught, the American eugenics movement was part of that. And that was a huge influence on the Germans that brought up about the Holocaust. And that is a huge cross to bear for the bioanthropology world, that they're going to have to be living down for a long time and try to distance themselves from it and make sure very loudly that was one of the most devastating movements that we could have been a part of, and that we completely condemn it. But again, we got to talk about it, because otherwise we're going to repeat it, because there seems to be this unfortunate cycle that humans like to go through, where we other a group of people and we just try to decimate them.
Once I start blaming an entire demographic for bad things, then you automatically know there's an agenda, because it's never an entire demographic. Here in the Netherlands, we had Mr. Wilders, who blamed the Moroccans. I have Moroccan friends. I grew up with them. They moved into our street when I was about 14. Their youngest daughter still calls me her brother. That's how much we interacted with each other. And I was 14, she was 5 at the time, but she hung out around our house almost all of the time.
And that's
what happens if you start blaming them. People won't hire them anymore, so they can't get a job, so they become the poor people. And yes, a lot of them will result to criminality in order to at least get something out of life. And that's not the way to do it. If there's a demographic that is struggling, you should help them. You should help them if there are language problems, which was back in the day was the thing. It no longer is, because most of the Moroccans they talk about now are born in the Netherlands. They're not Moroccans, they're Dutch. So, but yeah, every single time people start blaming a demographic, there's an agenda. I mean, and you can point that to everything. So even if it's the economy, or even if it's the woke people, the attacks trans people are under these days, because the problem with the gay people has died down just a little bit. So now we need a new target, and now it's trans people.
A new target. Yep.
And that's just it's stupid.
It's sick, and the dehumanizing language too. They're animals, just making them out to be less than human, and that somehow makes it okay then to hurt them, to kidnap them, to detain them in horrible, deplorable situations. And I heard recently one of our lawmakers found out, they went to Victorville, where they have a detention center, and found out, but first of all, nobody wants to go to Victorville to begin with. But to be detained there was like, oof. But the detainees were mostly from Texas. And they found out that they were taking the Californians to Texas, which, again, keeping them from their families, keeping them from their lawyers. It's a really strategic process. And again, with this administration, we say it all the time, because and this is what's also frustrating, is like, I've been marching against Trump since 2016. You know what I mean? Like I ran into friends this last weekend that we marched the weekend he got elected. We were out there marching, and it's like, I can't believe we're doing this 9 years later. But essentially, the cruelty is the point. The cruelty has been the point with this administration. With Trump, the cruelty is the point, and that's the sad thing. And that even with these people, that even the lawmakers, when those two Minnesotan lawmakers were murdered last weekend, there were people celebrating their death, and it's like, and their constituents are seeing this, and if they don't have a problem with it, that tells you that, again, they might be rejoicing the death of these people, and that's sick.
The response from Trump, have you called Waltz? No, because Waltz is not well, because he's an idiot or whatever. He doesn't care about the people who got shot.
No.
He does not care. And sadly, that's
part of his Congress.
Yes, but that is, since we had Trump, the worst people came out of the woodwork. Now you know who's who, because they got validated by Trump, and he's still validating them. And I think that's part of the problem. The governor of California said he's inciting the violence in LA, which I totally believe the way he explained what was happening. Yeah. And I wish we had more politicians like that, people who stand up and people who tell the truth about what's going on. Because
unfortunately, they're being detained too. The ones that are.
Yeah. It's really scary to watch, especially from at least I'm an older guy from the Netherlands, so I didn't catch anything from World War II other than my grandfather was in one of the camps, and he was supposed to be transferred to one of the death camps, but got liberated a day before he was supposed to be on a train out of there. So he made it. And
wow. Well, you see, we talk about the generational trauma from the Holocaust. We talk about the hunger winter and the women that, were restricted in the Netherlands to having like 500, 600 calories during their pregnancies per day, and how their kids ended up having problems with obesity and heart disease as a result from what they experienced during gestation. But we even see like, the epigenetic effects of living such hard lives. And we talk about why people become criminals, or the trauma responses that people will have to terrible things in their life. And it's like, I can't even imagine what will come out of this, or how people will be affected over time,
I only had a tiny piece. My mother never dreamed. She said, I never have a dream. But when she had a dream, it was always the Germans coming up the stairs late at night to get her father. That was when she was in her 80s still.
That's crazy. That's so sad. I can't even, that's a terrible nightmare. And that tells you how real that was.
Yes. And that was bad, but my grandfather made it. So he was put to work, and then he was transferred back to the Netherlands, and then he was supposed to be, because he lost so much weight he couldn't work anymore, and so they had no use for him anymore, so he was just going to be off to the gas chambers. But he survived.
Trying to find. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he survived. My mother, my grandmother, and her sisters, they didn't know what happened. All they witnessed that he was taken and that he was gone for a while, which is traumatic. It's not even close to people who actually lived through it. People who were in the camps, people who saw their relatives being killed while they were put to work. They didn't see that. And so
now I wanted to read a quote real quick, just because. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, well, no, it relates to what you're saying, and it relates to where you are. But let's see. Hold on. Terrible things are happening outside. Poor, helpless people are being dragged out of their homes. Families are torn apart. Men, women, and children are separated. Children come home from school to find that their parents have disappeared. This was being shared around. You might recognize it, Peter, but this is from Anne Frank's diary from 1943, and it's one of those, again, if you don't know your history, you're deemed to, repeat it. And it's just terrifying how people might not even know who Anne Frank is, and here we are going through something very similar. And the sad thing is, I in this country, white people got us here, to be very honest. I mean, if you look at who voted for this regime, it was white folks. And the sad thing is, a lot of white, poor, uneducated, because of all the graphs, of all the stats of who voted for who this past election, the most compelling one, and I haven't pulled it up, but I probably could, of who voted for Trump was uneducated white folks. A college education was the thing that like put you over the edge to vote for Kamala, right? Like it was, if you didn't have a college education, you'll settle for the guy who grabs him by the pussy and who has 34 felons, and it's sad because we've got a bunch of oligarchs who've convinced poor, uneducated white folks that they're somehow on their side, that they somehow care about them. They have been duped. These poor white,
yes,
uneducated people somehow think, they become minions for these oligarchs carrying out their mission because they think that they're roped into the cool, they think they're part of the cool kids. No, they're not. They're not at all. And that's the saddest part. And we all have, well, I can't say we all, but many of us have family that might fall into this category. And that's why you have to have these conversations. Although sometimes they're too far gone and they just really have drunk the Kool-Aid and think that they are somehow safe. They are safe from the scapegoating. Hi, Harley. Hi, sweet boy. Everybody look at Harley.
Someone wants to make an appearance.
Raisin. She's right here. Raisin got a flea bath today. So, okay, say hi.
Hey, Raisin.
Raisin and
hey, Raisin.
Say Harley's hi to Harley.
Harley's just lazy. He's laying down.
Raisin is also, do you see how she has no bones? Do you see how she has not activated her bones?
She's completely
boneless. She's not, she's so, look at her, no bones. Raisin, do you have bones? No. She has flea, and I did frontline on her last week, the frontline flea stuff, and she's still itching like a bitch. And yesterday I found one right near her booty hole, a flea. I got very mad, and so I got flea bath, and I gave her she's so soft right now. She's so soft. Gave her a flea bath. I sprayed her down. So hopefully she's going to go stay with grandma, and I want her to be devoid of any vermin on her little tush.
Yeah.
So my mom's not like, why did you bring a flea bag into my home? But I think she's good. I think she's staring lovingly. Where's Harley? Is he back down?
He's just here.
Yeah. So see, Raisin, no bones, no bones. Okay, I'm putting her down. Yeah. She's got. I also like what I washed her. She has a double coat, and so there was a full swath of fur in my tub. It was disgusting.
It's that time because Harley is a red bull terrier, and I didn't know that they lost a lot more hair than the brindle one that I had before. Okay. So yeah, I have noticed that it is time to shed. It's a lot of hair coming off of the dog.
Poor Harley. Raisin's a fuzz, but she's very furry little creature. But I hope she's not going to flea it up anymore. You're going to be no more flea free. This is disgusting, but I think my people watching, I can handle it. I think you can handle it. I had to express Raisin's anal glands the other night.
Ooh.
And it was traumatic for both of us.
Yes.
But she was it was one of those moments where she was like, she fought it at first. And then when it happened, she just kind of succumbed because she realized like this is making her life better, even though it was making my life
worse.
Not. It was intense. I was like, I've done it twice now. And this time was far more intense than the last time. The other time it was like, okay, one and done. This time was like, this is a process and we're going to be here. We're along for the ride. So, oh wait, hold on. Let me see. My unfinished sock says, "Don't be a head bashing Proud Boy ICE agent. Like and share the stream instead." Thank you so much. Yeah, and a good friend of mine who I don't know if he's watching, my friend Michael, if you are watching, I would love to have him on the show one of these days. He is former military. He knows the whole deal with ICE because I didn't say his last name, right? I don't think I did. He used to work for the Department of Homeland Security. So he knows the drill, and he knows that it's really hard for these ICE agents to find a job after they are that. They can't just seamlessly move into law enforcement. Now, I do not think that's enough of an excuse to stay. Personally, I know finding a job is hard, but why the fuck did you sign up to be an ICE agent to begin with? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of jobs I can do. You know, actually anthropologists do work for the military sometimes, but then it's fucked up. Like sometimes they'll work for the military, act like they're doing an ethnographic study, and then all of a sudden use that information against the people that are your informants, which is so evil that I couldn't imagine. Even like for $1 million, I could not do that. There's no amount of money that would allow me to think that that's okay. So I don't know. I get that these ICE agents don't have much of a future if they leave the agency, because like I said, they're not hireable by law to like police stations, which is probably good because they have some pretty fucked up tactics of getting people.
You wouldn't want those people to be police officers. I mean, I wouldn't.
No, and
want
they can't.
That.
They don't have any training.
No,
but they have no training. That's the thing, is like, to become an ICE agent, you need very little training. You don't need an education. I don't even think you need a college education, you know, and that's terrifying.
In all fairness, in the US, to become a cop, you don't need any training either. It's weeks, whereas
it's very minimal.
In my country, it's 4 years.
Yeah.
Before you can become a cop.
Preferable.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing comes down to education. This is why the Trump administration is trying to basically run the educational system into the ground, dismantle everything.
Yeah.
Because if you keep people stupid, they will believe you on pretty much everything you say. So this is what they want. And you can this also the demographic. People in the South are more likely to vote for Trump. But education is lower in the South as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they have really bad school systems in like Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's very much intentional by design. And if you keep people poor, they also, you don't give them access to things like birth control, healthy food, right? They're not going to perform as well in school. They're going to end up pregnant. And when you end up pregnant, you end up poor. And when you're poor, you can't get an education. And when you can't get an education, like you said, it's easy to control. And also it's like cutting people off at the knees. If people, because we're in this weird spot right now with our country where everybody I know in Los Angeles is hurting. I don't know. I maybe know a couple people who are doing okay because they have like normal big people jobs. You know what I mean? They're lawyers or they're doctors, but even still they're suffering in other ways, right? Because they're watching their friends suffer. But everybody that I know that works in science or the film industry, which is my two worlds, or even comedy, everybody suffers all the time. So whatever. But everybody is hurting. And when you're hurting and you're working 4 jobs, it's hard to make a protest. It's hard to get out there. It's hard to fight. Unless you get the population so damn broke that they have nothing to lose. And then then we get real dangerous. Then we get real ready to, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. But at the same time, I do think we're getting to that point. Like the fact that we saw over 2,200, hi boss.
Someone's mad he's not on camera.
The fact that we had over 2,200, right? He's like, well, boss is Peter's bird. Is a minor bird? No, is a minor?
No, it's a
conure.
Green-cheeked conure. Hold on.
That's it, yeah. Let's say hi to boss. Hold on, let me just check. I have to get moving soon because I got to go take on the day and get... Oh, boss!
There he is.
Boss! That's my boss.
And you're lucky. If I still had a green screen, you would be invisible. Yes.
You would be all just translucent boss. What a cutie pie.
Ra is
Hi,
a little bit
buddy.
jealous. He's got a green parrot, but he also has a green screen. So every single time he picks up the parrot,
Oh,
he's got this
why doesn't he
beef.
put the parrot in front of him?
It doesn't work.
Like, if you put him right in front of you.
No,
Really?
it filters out the
Oh.
green. So yeah,
All
he wouldn't
green.
be visible.
Okay.
What do you say?
Oh.
Oh, okay. Peep.
He's very good. Boss. Oh. What a
What do you
cutie
say?
pie.
Peep.
What a sweet.
Peep. You gotta get a kiss. Get a kiss. Not getting a kiss.
Oh, sweet baby.
He needs
No
a treat
kiss.
first.
Ah,
No.
hard to get. I am getting itchy because I held my dog who I'm slightly allergic to. That's fun. I do have to get going in a minute because I'll tell the folks, and you stay on, Peter, because I'll because you're great, and everybody give a shout out to Peter. Go Peter. Makes this possible every week. I'm going to Glastonbury tomorrow night, or I'm going to London. I'm flying out. I'm doing a red eye. I'm flying out of Burbank to New York, 3-hour layover, and then off to London I go. And then I'm there for a few days to kind of acclimate, staying with friends of friends who are being very generous and having me. And then we head out to Glastonbury on Tuesday. So I'll be, is it Tuesday? Yeah. And then I don't start performing, I think, till Thursday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday are my big performances. And I'm doing, is it Wednesday? Hold on. Let me just, I'll properly tell folks. If anybody is watching and like is going to be there, they're impossible to get tickets. So if you got them, bravo. Oh yeah. So Wednesday, I'm doing at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, I'm doing increase your cliteracy rate, Homo sapiens, snake, and simian slits explained. Then the 26th, which is Thursday, I'm doing gay animals at 4 p.m. And then on Saturday, I have Friday off, which I'm going to go run around like a maniac. And then on Saturday, I'm doing bonobos, badass bisexual bonobo babes. And that will be also at 4 p.m. And then on, Thursday night, also, I'll be doing a 10-minute set. So these 3 shows are going to be the cliteracy rate, gay animals, and bonobos are going to be about 30 to 45-minute shows. Then there's going to be a small set on the Thursday night. And then on 29th, I'll be doing a women in STEM panel at, I think, 3 p.m. with Jilly Forrester. Very excited. So yeah. And then after that, I'm actually going to be looking to jump onto shows in London or around England. I don't know when I'm coming back. So Peter knows this. I will probably not have a show next week because I will be in a place with very little internet. That's not to say I won't be filming. I'm bringing my camera. I got new mics that are even better than the ones that's like this mic, but it's, a lav mic. And I'll be interviewing people. Oh my God, my dog made me. Now, do I have fleas? What's going on? I'm so itchy. But I will be filming, and the next week I might be back doing a show, but I would be still in London. So I'll have to figure that out. But I just want to thank people for all your support. If you want to join my Patreon, all that will help me get to England because this, believe it or not, does not pay. So, this show, but also Glastonbury, I get a free ticket, but I do not get I don't get paid for the performances, nor do I get my travel covered. So when I first agreed to do it in the end of, I guess, last year, December, January, I had work coming in. And then, of course, with Trump being inaugurated, things just kind of dried up. So it's been a really rough year for a lot of people, not just me. So if you have a little extra pennies or whatnot, feel free to join the Patreon. You can join it and drop it if you don't want to keep doing it, but it'll help support this show, help support all my science comedy stuff. And then if you like the stream, you can like it, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. Look at Boss. Boss is such a boss bitch. I love that bird. And I'm going to get going because I have to go keep packing. I have Dolores the clitoris. I had to lint roll her real good, but I gave her new eyelashes. This is Dolores. She is, she's going to be in my carry-on because I don't trust checking her. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to check her, look at her. I just redid her lips too, because her lips were falling off, and I did her lashes. See, her lashes are nice and full. Hello. Her mouth doesn't move very well because she's seen but not heard, like all women. But yeah, that's Dolores. And oh my God, your lashes are getting messed up again. Oh, it's okay. She'll be fine. It's tough. It's tough being such a babe, such a bodacious, hot babe. And then yeah, my show last week, I did my Gaze of Our Lives show. It went really well. Unfortunately, the turnout wasn't what we wanted. It was a little light on the turnout. A lot of it had to do with what was going on last week. You know, Los Angeles was in full crisis mode, and it was hard to promote a show where you're watching literally people get kidnapped off the street. Yeah. It's hard to be like, come to a comedy show, gay animals. You know, I tried to pitch it as fill up your cup with queer joy, but even like me, I'm just like, I'm a big believer. Come if you want, don't if you don't. You know, yeah. I don't like to twist people's arms to do anything. And especially if you didn't feel safe. I had friends that were also because there's a curfew zone. There's an area where you couldn't leave after 8 p.m. or you can't get back. And it's like, I'm not going to ask those. You know, I had a good friend, my friend Dave, shout out to Dave Freed, who's one of my old buddies. We took zoology class together back in 2002. We dissected a giant Norwegian rat together because I didn't want to do it. And they made me do it. And I just teamed up with him. So I joke that friends that dissect giant Norwegian rats together stay together. That's how that works. But he's lovely and wonderful, and also is an amazing documentary filmmaker. And I wanted him to come, but he was like, I'm in curfew zone because he's downtown. So yeah. But stay safe out there, folks, and know that I love you and I care about you, and I'm gonna do some good science education out in the UK. We're hoping, my manager's hoping that the UK will understand what I do a little bit better than the States. That was another thing.
They probably will. I just watched a video of a British comedian. I don't know if you've heard of him, Jimmy Carr. And he was in the US doing a show, and someone in the audience asked, who's more woke, the Americans or the British? And he said the British are definitely more woke, because there is something going on in the US right now, which is shifting things a little. So
it's gross. And anybody who uses, people that use the term woke like, I actually have that. I'm on a dating site. Not that I date. I'm really not dating whatsoever. It's almost like just to like how do I put this? It's like a way to pass time, like just to see what's out there. Right. I'm not, my head's not in that game, but I put that in my profile, like any, you know, what basically I don't want are moderates, conservatives, and anybody who uses woke as a derogatory term, you know, because that term was hijacked years ago by the right, created by, you know, Black Americans to stay woke against racial injustice, and has completely lost its meaning. But even those that use it, I mean, it's just having empathy, you know, and thinking twice about what you say or what you do. I mean, how is that a bad thing? You know, all of a sudden making that, I don't know. I met some guy when I was in Sedona who was like, you're not PC, are you? You're not woke, are you? And I was like, oh no. I couldn't get away fast enough. But yeah, people that say that really bum me out, because it says that they don't really value empathy. Mm-hmm. And that's not good. That's I think we're really dealing with that in the US. So, but Peter, thank you for joining me. This was really fun.
This was fun for me too. This was fun for me too.
Yay!
So, glad to be here.
And Harley. Yeah.
Although I also like the shows when I'm just backstage and you have a very interesting guest, because that's what I'm here for, actually. Learning from other people.
Same. Every time I have someone on, I'm always floored by what they bring, and that's why I want to keep bringing good people. That's why, if you like the show, please like and subscribe. Also consider becoming a Patreon patron because it does help me, honestly. I don't, yeah, I mean, I think people know this. The show is not monetized. I think people can tell that. But yeah,
Yes.
so I'm working, and also share it, share the show, share the stream if you like it, because we want to get those watch hours up so I can monetize.
Yes.
Right, Peter?
Like and share. Yes,
Yeah.
because YouTube has made it incredibly hard to get monetized these days, which I think is a little bit stupid. But I mean,
Oh yeah, Peter, I made up to, wait, hold on. I'll tell Peter where I'm at. My watch hours, I've had a channel, and by the way, my channel could vote right now. My channel is 19 years old. I have 1,103 watch hours out of the 4,000 I need to monetize.
yes.
So let's get
And-
those hours up.
And for people who don't know, they go by the last 12 months. So older shows are going to be deducted again, and then the more people you come watch, I mean, it's fun. You learn, and you see guests that you might not have seen that much before.
Yeah.
And learn about topics you never even heard about before, and it's interesting.
It's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
And get really fun little visits like from Harley and Raisin.
Yes, that too. And I mean,
That too.
Did we have a guest that didn't have an animal? We've had cats, we've had dogs, we've had all kinds.
Yeah, we've had a lot of creatures, so many creatures.
So,
this is a very creature happy show.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to be looking for creatures. I actually ran into a skunk the other night. I should have asked them to be on the show next time.
Cool.
My mom's front yard had a little skunk friend. It was very cute. But yeah, so that being said, I'm going to wrap this up because I do need to go get going. And thank you for joining. If you joined, and feel free, like there are going to be great people coming up in July. I'm going to try to get Jason DeLeon on, who wrote Soldiers and Kings. I'm going to Donald. I always say, you say Prothero, I say Prothero. I'm sure it's Prothero. I have no idea, but I've known Donald for years, but I don't know how to say his last name because I never say it out loud. But I'm going to have him on. He's a geologist, does great paleontology work as well. Who else? I have a bunch of people that I want to have on.
This one I actually know. It's Prothero.
Prothero.
Yes.
So Donald Prothero. I have one of his books, and then John Fugelsang, who's a very dear friend of mine. I'll have him on. His book, The Separation Between Church and Hate, is coming out in August. So I cannot wait to have him on. Also going to reach out to my friend James Fell, who has a Nook. He actually just submitted a updated version of one of his history books. Who else? Agunda Okeo is also somebody I want to have on. She is a comic who has a Substack called The DEI Boogeyman, about what DEI is and is not, which is a great kind of follow-up to EK, who we had on a few weeks ago. EK was amazing. Talked about DEI, EK Escobar. My friend Michael, I'd love to have on. There's a lot of people. We're gonna have more people. So keep coming back. It works if you work it. It doesn't if you don't. That's an AA thing. Just so you know.
I'll go back in hiding so you can finish up the show.
I'm gonna do my patrons. Yeah, I held my dog and now I'm itching. Okay, patrons, I want to say thank you so very much to Daniel Wynn, Claude Allen, Tom, Skullbeard, Tori Yates, I like that Skullbeard and Tori Yates or near each other because I want to say it like that. Redding Maley, I love you so much. Dana Logan, Michael Z. Weinstock, David Leitner, Anthony Zana, Tom Berman, Jen Beverstock, Scott Froschauer, that means frog beater, JSB, Jeff Cohen, Andrea Bloom, I owe you an email, I love you to death, Jonathan Marks, still retired and fabulous, Kelly Frazier, Michael Clanton, PJ Shapiro, and we have a new one this week. I forgot to mention this to Peter, my dear, lovely, wonderful friend, Carrie Dorr, which I could also say like Carrie Dorr, like a pirate. Okay, I love you. Please, folks, stay filthy and stay safe. If you see something, say something special, especially in the terms of ICE. And yeah, let's keep the empathy flowing and going. Keep talking to your racist friends and family and tell them what's what. Be that ideal informant. Okay. Till next time, stay filthy. Mwah!